And we are live. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience and have continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 7 seasons. Let's make it 8 in 2021. But enough of me. I'm here for you on today's episode of the FB Show. We're going to be doing the first mock draft on the channel for 2021. We're going to keep it real simple here. Half point PPR, 12-man league, standard, no super flex, nothing crazy, no dynasty startup, just a regular, good old-fashioned mock draft to get our feet wet for the year. That being said, I have done about 10 mock drafts already or so for my own leagues, but I haven't drafted from the beginning slots at all. I know for myself, my draft pick, I'm number 10 this year, so I've been really focusing on the back of the draft as opposed to the front. So we're going to change things up that way, and we're going to be drafting in the front of, I think probably pick 4 is what I really want to go for. Maybe 2, who knows? Anyways, before we get started with this draft, be sure to hit that like button down below, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a video from me, a little bit rusty here, it's fine. Follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. Without further ado, let's just dive right in to this mock draft. Where do I want to draft from? So one's interesting. I kind of want to draft from 2 though, because I think you have more decisions to make if you're drafting in the 2 spot. And you obviously the potentially get sniped with 1 going back to back and pick. I want to draft from 2. So let's do this. And let's start this draft. Cool. All right. So we're on the clock here. What are we doing? There we go. So on the clock at 2, CMC obviously is going to go number 1. And that leaves us the option of Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. In a half-point scoring format, this seems pretty simple to me. We're going to go with Dalvin Cook here. There's just a lot of... I don't know if there's as much debate as I would think for Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook, but I do know that obviously there are a lot of concerns just about Dalvin Cook's health just due to his injury history. Honestly, doesn't really concern me. He's been relatively healthy over the course of the past 2 seasons, so I actually think that his early injury history is pretty much behind him. Always the possibility that he could get banged up again, but we have Alexander Mattison in the back of the draft for that, and so I'm really not going to overthink this. Dalvin Cook, focal point of the Minnesota Vikings offense, also used in the pass game as well. We're going to go with Dalvin Cook at our number 2 overall selection. So off the board here, we got Henry, we got Kamara. I have it on both screens here. I don't know which way I'm going to look. Let's just look over here. So this is what's big here. So 2 wide receivers go in the first round. And that's going to dictate the flow of, honestly, rounds 2. Like, that's the big thing. Depending on what happens in the back of your first round is going to heavily influence what happens in the second, just based off of the numbers of wide receivers or tight ends, considering Travis Kelce, that could go, and that just means that somebody else is going to fall for you later on. So, for example, this is the perfect example of that. Devontae Adams and Tyreek went in the first round, and that means that Joe Mixon fell to me here in the second, and I love that so much. That's going to be something that I'm absolutely going to hammer. I love starting off with running back. There's a whole strategy behind it. I'm probably going to end up making another video talking about it, but basically being able to maximize that position because it's, to me, the most valuable and also the most scarce as well, supply and demand. So we're going to go running back. Joe Mixon falling to me in that spot is fantastic. Joe Mixon's going to be able to get all of the work in Cincinnati. That offense is going to be great. And actually the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was just there as well and I missed that kind of bums me out, but I'm fine with Mixon there as well. Either or would be a great asset for your team. And here on the turn is where things get interesting. Now, we could go with a DeAndre Swift, a Miles Sanders, or a J.K. Dobbins, or we can look at wide receiver at this spot with Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Julio, Mike Evans, Godwin. Najee Harris is also there on the board as well. One of the things that we talk a lot about here is running backs winning championships. It's one of the reasons why I just started off running back. But the formula here, when you're drafting this late, specifically on the turn more or less, and you're in the turn this early, this run of guys is going to be gone. And one of the things that we always say at Fantasy Vulture is wide receivers grow on trees. Like, I just have a very strong tendency to wait on wide receiver, and I've done a mock draft earlier today, actually, where I was able to wait pretty late, and I was still relatively okay at the position. So I'm going to punt wide receiver again, and we're going to start off with 3 straight running backs, really lock that up, because if anything does happen to Dalvin Cook, if anything does happen to Joe Mixon, we're going to be able to have that third guy to just kind of throw right in. And looking at who is available on the board right now, between Swift, Dobbins, and Harris, I'm definitely going to go with Najee Harris. The reason being that Steelers offense right now, yes, the line is not as great as it once was, but Najee Harris is going to be the guy in that backfield. He should easily get 275 carries. By and large, it's kind of where I've been paced out to be, and just getting that kind of productivity from a guy who is Derrick Henry light, as I've considered him to be, like, that's just volume that you can't really find in the third round, and that's why I'm more than happy taking him right there at my third round pick. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. So on the way back, this is the string of wide receivers that just went off the board. We had Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, Kenny Golladay, Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, and guess who is currently on the board for us right now? Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen as my wide receiver 1. I feel more than happy about that right now. And then Kareem Hunt and Gaskin go at the turn. And who does that leave us right now? We have a plethora of options. We could go quarterback here if we wanted to go with Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, or we could go tight end with TJ Hawkinson and Mark Andrews. I will say this, I historically don't take quarterbacks early, but this year, especially what I've noticed on the ends, and it just happened in this mock draft as well, quarterbacks just kind of happen to fall into your lap. So I know for me, this actually has happened in just my recent mock drafts as well, where I'm on that 4-5, I'm actually in the 5-6 turn, and on the 5-6 turn, one of Lamar, Kyler, Dak is just kind of sitting there, and I've been very prone to taking them there. But just looking at this, I really don't want to take a quarterback in the early 5th. I'd rather scoop up a tight end right here. And so because of that, I'm actually going to take TJ Hawkinson, a guy who I've been rising high on. He just doesn't have a whole lot of competition for targets in Detroit. And yes, Detroit's not going to be bad, but if they are in a position where they are getting crushed or they're down, which is kind of the way that this team projects to be, Hawkinson's going to be force-fed the ball, and then he's also just the best skill player on offense for that team. So Hawk right there in the 5th feels like really great value. And I'm looking at the way that my draft is started with Dalvin Cook and the Adam Thielen stack. I'm cool with that. Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, and TJ Hawkinson. I feel like I have a really strong core to start right there. But unfortunately, the run of quarterbacks did just go with Josh Allen, Lamar, Kyler, Dak, and Russ. They all just went off the board. So I'm really not even going to be in a position to look for quarterbacks right now, because if I'm going to go early, the only 3 quarterbacks I'm really looking to take this early are Lamar, Kyler, or Dak. And I'm not going to spend an early 5th round pick on one of those guys. If they happen to slide and get to the back of the 6th, very unlikely. I'm going to shoot my shot there. But early on in the 5th, I'm not going to take that value, because that value honestly just isn't there. So looking at the board right now, who is on the board? We have David Johnson if we wanted to go with the 4th running back. I'm not the biggest fan of DJ this year. He's aging, and Houston's not going to be good. With Juju, Cortland Sutton, Chase Claypool, Will Fuller. Looking at this right now, I know what my strategy is going to be. I'm going to grab another wide receiver. And of this list between Juju, Sutton, and Claypool, I am going to go with Sutton. I know he's still recovering off of that torn ACL, and he's not 100% yet. I'm just going to buy the talent, though, of Cortland Sutton and his ability to get back to full health. Cortland Sutton, when he was on the field, was incredible and was expected to be a breakout candidate last year before the injury, and I think he's going to bounce back to that form this season. So having Cortland Sutton as my number 2, we are going to patch it up, so I'm not overly concerned about that if anything were to happen, but we're going to go Cortland Sutton there as my number 2 wide receiver. Now, we're going to start reaching here just a little bit, because at this point in the draft, in the 7th round, you're now just kind of taking guys that you like. You're taking guys that you believe in, guys who think could be breakouts or values. And one of my favorites in this draft class, just kind of as a whole, is, where is he? Where'd he go? Oh my God, I just got sniped. I got sniped, I didn't even see it. Shit! I was going to take Mike Davis. I thought for sure Mike Davis would make it back there. Look at Team 1. Team 1 has stole my strategy. Team 1 is 6 running backs. That's literally something that I would do. Oh, that sucks. Oh, that blows. All right, let's pivot. What are we going to do here? Damn. Okay. I'm going to buy that one of these guys gets back to me. I'm going to hope and pray. Looking at the running backs. Hang on. I'm going to scroll here for a bit. And, okay. Damn. That really just threw me off. Okay. Here's the pivot that we're going to do. We're going to do a wide receiver here. And between Juju and Claypool, I'm actually going to go... Damn. We're going to go Juju here. I don't love it, but the reason why I'm going to go with Juju, I think the bounce back is going to be real. You're going to get Juju at a great value, especially because it's a half-point PPR. Just having Juju being one of like the main guys in Pittsburgh. I know it was ugly. I know he just signed I know he re-signed for a one-year deal. I just believe that Claypool is a bit too inconsistent for my liking, and I'm going to take the guaranteed targets for Juju just as my third wide receiver or a flex option if I have to. And then, of course, on the way back, I get sniped again. Oh my God. I was going to take Jamar Chase there. That's what I was hoping to do. Man, this might be the worst mock draft in the history of fantasy football content. Fuck. Okay, this one seems easy to me. We're going to go Javonte Williams here, rookie running back for the Denver Broncos. Melvin Gordon is on a timer, and I believe that Javonte is going to take over that backfield at some point. Javonte being my number 4 running back is fine. He's not going to see my starting lineup until bye weeks, if anything, and then if an injury happens later on in the year, Javonte should be well established enough to where I could plug and play him if need be. Not relying on Javonte Williams early on is what really makes that decision easier for me, just because you have Dalvin Cook, Mixon, and Najee. Like, those 3 guys are probably never going to leave your lineup, but just having Javonte Williams as a in case of emergency break the glass button, that's kind of what his role is on this team. All right, we're going to start to hammer wide receivers now. So looking at who is on the board right now, we have Jerry Jeudy. Actually, do we want to go quarterback here? Quarterback in the 9th. How many quarterbacks have gone off the board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. We're going to go quarterback here because I don't think he gets back to me. My favorite late round quarterback option is Ryan Tannehill. Just with the way that Tannehill played last year, he was great. With the year that he played before in 2019, he was great. In 2021, he adds Julio Jones. Ryan Tannehill is my favorite late round quarterback, and I will do pretty much anything to try and get him. He's not going to cost you a whole lot. Like, you could be spending up in that 4th or 5th round, 4th, 5th, or 6th for one of those top tier guys, or you can wait for Ryan Tannehill, who's going to cost you half as much, and you're going to get not the same amount of value, obviously, because you're looking at different tiers of quarterback, but having Ryan Tannehill, you still have week winning upside every single week with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and just Tannehill's ability to play quarterback well in this offense. All right, what are we doing? We get sniped again. Devontae Smith doesn't make it back to me either. God damn. Okay, what's the pivot here? Looking at who's available right now, we're going to go with Michael Carter at the running back position again. Just continue to hammer that. Michael Carter is the 1B right now for the New York Jets. The Jets are an offense that I just seemingly believe in. I don't know why, but just looking at the way that a team is being brought together, I really do like the potential within this offense from a fantasy football perspective. And having Carter, the rookie out of North Carolina, like, are we really going to buy Tevin Coleman? Really? In 2021? No, we're not. So while Tevin Coleman may start the year getting some work, I really don't know how long it's going to last. And I believe in Michael Carter, the player and the talent, more than I do Tevin Coleman. And then on the turn here, we're going to go with another wide receiver. And my favorite late round wide receiver here, every single draft at this point, it seems like, is Antonio Brown. Getting a guy like that in the 11th round of your draft. Antonio Brown was great last year. And yes, you're kind of spinning the wheel between Godwin, Evans, and Brown on a week-to-week basis, but Antonio Brown showed me enough last year to where I feel comfortable starting him as my wide receiver 2 or flex option on any given week. And again, when you're looking at guys like Courtland Sutton or Juju Smith-Schuster, who are kind of still up in the air and you're really just taking these dart throws, going Antonio Brown to have that security blanket as your 4th wide receiver, if Sutton busts, if Juju doesn't return to form, that's fantastic. And that's exactly what this strategy is designed to do. So we're back on the clock again. I don't feel the need to go running back at all. So let's try and tackle another wide receiver. And at this point, my favorite wide receiver on the board is Darnell Mooney, wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. They ship out Anthony Miller, cementing Darnell Mooney's role as the number 2 wide receiver in Chicago. I believe in Justin Fields as well. Even if it's Andy Dalton, Andy Dalton has shown to be competent enough for fantasy football. And what Darnell Mooney did last year with terrible quarterback play has me so excited for him in year 2. I'm also admittedly a Darnell Mooney dynasty owner, so I'm really excited about that for even more reasons. And just being able to get Mooney like this, again, as a dart throw kind of wait and see breakout potential player in the 12th round, like that is the exact kind of value that you are headhunting for this late in your draft. All right, we're back on the clock again. Who is on the board here? Looking at who is available right now. Okay. I'm going to do a swing for the fence play right here. And that swing for the fence play is going to be Rashad Bateman, wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, rookie wide receiver out of Minnesota. Bateman is one of my favorite rookie wide receivers in this draft class. In fact, I actually had him ranked as my number 1 wide receiver at one point this offseason because of the fact that Baltimore has lacked a true number 1 wide receiver for so long. So being able to get a potential number 1 option on one of the best offenses in football in the 14th, 13th round, that's value that you really just can't find. And that's the potential upside that you really need to be looking for when you're going that late in drafts. We're back on the clock now for our final selection here. And who are we going to take? Who's a fun player that I can talk about here? Okay, I don't recommend going 2 tight ends. But what I'm about to show you is going to be something that maybe you can apply for your own drafts. So let's say that we didn't take TJ Hawkinson in the 5th round. Let's say we waited and waited and waited for a tight end. My favorite late round tight end is Jared Cook, tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers. And the reason why is pretty simple. I don't think Jared Cook was as bad as everybody made him out to be last year. He still had, I believe it was 8 weeks as a tight end 1 last year. He caught 6 touchdowns. He was a guy that really was just unfortunately derailed by the offense. The Saints passing offense was not good at all last year. Jared Cook was still able to make big plays, and he goes over to the Los Angeles Chargers where he replaces Hunter Henry, who was on pace for 100+ targets last year. Henry finished with 94 targets in 2020, and being able to get a guy like that who steps into this role in Los Angeles where he's almost guaranteed 100 targets. Are you kidding? Everyone's all freaking out about Mike Williams and the potential of Mike Williams. But the reality is, the number 2 option in the Los Angeles Chargers system behind Keenan Allen is the tight end position. Mike Williams simply hasn't put it together. Give me the guy who could very easily get 100 targets in this offense. The emergence of Justin Herbert, a team that could hang 50 on the board any given week. That's the guy that I want at my tight end position if I'm waiting on tight end in the back of my draft. And that's going to do it for this mock draft. Let's go through it one more time. The results here. We had Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, and Michael Carter as our running backs. Our quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. Our wide receivers are Adam Thielen, Cortland Sutton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman. And then our tight ends are TJ Hawkinson and Jared Cook. Again, I don't really advise going with 2 tight ends. This was more so just the example of like, hey, it's a late round, it's the last pick in the draft. Let me just talk about one extra guy. But evaluating this team right now, this team subscribes almost to a T how I approach fantasy football. And that's running backs win you championships, but you have to be able to build the roster around that position. Think of it this way. Running backs are your sun, and every other position are the planets, and your team just revolves around the running back position. So being able to still have a guy like Adam Thielen, who you have to make a decision on this year if you are in or out on. I feel in. I'm pretty confident with Thielen this year as my number 1. Having Cortland Sutton, the emergence of the potential re-breakout for him. Juju as a number 3 option, especially in a half-point PPR format. Love that there. Antonio Brown just having that safety net on my bench every single week. Are you kidding? Antonio Brown is the best safety net to have for fantasy this year. Darnell Mooney breakout potential, Rashad Bateman breakout potential as well. Tight end with Hawkinson probably expected to level up this year. Ryan Tannehill, the most consistent high end potential late round quarterback, if that makes sense. Like, he's just a guy who could hang 25 for you consistently every single week if given the opportunity, and he's never going to bust. Ryan Tannehill is never going to hurt you either. So that's what this team looks like. I gotta be honest, I really like this, and that's despite the fact that we got sniped, what, 3 times, 4 times? I couldn't believe it. The CPU was on my ass today, and I gotta be honest, they kind of kicked my ass, but we rebounded, we recovered, and that's what happens. That's why we mock draft, so that you're able to see what happens if you get sniped. How do you react? Do you have contingencies? If you get sniped at X, what happens with Y, and how does your draft strategy evolve and change? We always kind of go in with a semi-static draft strategy. That's a very hot take that I personally do. I know a lot of people within the industry hate going in with static plans. I love it, but I also have contingencies around each plan to develop if anything were to happen, like we get sniped 3 times. That was fun. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe so you never miss a video from me. Also, check out the podcast, FF Vulture. Actually, it's just Fantasy Vulture, isn't it? Yeah. The social media, though, is FF Vulture on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all the platforms. And that's going to do it. So again, thank you so much for watching. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever, and I will see you in the next video.